Hello there, Moni here, and today I'm starting a new thing. It's called Tuesday Feng Shui Stories. And the reason I'm doing this is a couple of years ago I published a book called Room by Room Feng Shui Secrets for a Happy Life. And that was just a book of stories, not graphics, not illustrations, not photos, just stories. And I was really impressed by how much people learned from reading the stories and how much they started transforming their homes. I know many of you share your photos in this group. And so I thought that I would, on Tuesdays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, that I will share a story with you that teaches you an aspect of Feng Shui so that you don't forget it, right? And so I have my cheat sheet over here so I don't forget any details of the story I want to share with you. So this is a story of my short-lived friendship with a gal and why the friendship was dissolved. My husband, he had a friend whose wife had told him that she wanted to stop eating junk food. They had children, small children, so she wanted to feed them better. And she also wanted to homeschool them because there had been some issues with bullying and other things going on at school, in public school. So she wanted to homeschool, and they knew that we eat really healthy, and also that we homeschool, right? We don't anymore, but we homeschool for most of our children's schooling. And so my husband asked me, was I willing to meet this gal, and could she approach me and ask me questions, right? And I said, okay. And, our kids were similar ages, so I thought maybe that's an opportunity for a play date. Maybe I'll make a friend. So she came over, they introduced us in the front yard, and then I invited her in and went to my kitchen over here. And we're talking about things, and we're chatting while I was cooking. And so she had a lot of questions, about food, about how to prepare foods, what to do regarding bread. For example, one of her kids, she thought was sensitive to gluten, and so I taught her how to make bread at home, things like that. And so she came to my home for months, and I shared for her freely of my knowledge, of my time, because I was really impressed that, she was a young mother that wanted to learn, wanted to improve their lives. And so shortly after we started hanging out, one day she told me, I think that you are really nice and really generous, and I'm really surprised that you are. And I said, why? And she said, well, because you're a doctor's wife. So my husband's a doctor of chiropractic, right? And she said, because usually doctors' wives are really snobby, and they really look down on people. So I thought I wouldn't like you because you're a doctor's wife. And I thought, well, that is the strangest thing I have heard that I didn't tell her, right? And so time went on, and at some point, she started ghosting me. So she would not return my texts. She would not answer my phone calls. I sent her a couple of emails she didn't respond to. And at the time, she was planning a party. She was having a big party at her house, and some big celebration. And so I thought, well, maybe she's just busy, right? But that celebration came and went, and still no communication from her. So I sent her one day, we were friends on Facebook, right? And so I sent her a text via Messenger, and I asked her, hey, is something going on? Because, for weeks now, you don't respond to my emails, you don't respond to my texts, you don't answer my phone calls. And then she tells me, and she says, yes, something is going on. You have hurt my feelings really deeply. You have offended me. You have made me feel like I'm beneath you, and you have trampled over everything that I grew up believing and thinking was good. And so I was racking my brain thinking, what could she possibly mean? Did I offend her when I told her that she probably should not buy commercial bread? Did I offend her when I had recommended this brand of milk over this other brand of milk? I just didn't know. And so I asked her, can you be more specific? I really don't understand. I never meant to offend you. And then she told me that when she was asking me about homeschooling, she had specifically asked about social studies, what kind of curriculum we use. And we didn't use a curriculum. We just put together a curriculum for our family. And so she said, "You knew that I didn't graduate high school, that I have a GED, and you looked down on me because of that." And I was like, first of all, she knew that my husband also got a GED. I have nothing against people who get GEDs. And then, when she asked me about social studies, I had told her that for my kids, like for example, history and geography, right? That for me, it wasn't so important that they remember dates, but that I wanted them to remember sequences, that they needed to know that, for example, the American independence happened, and the French Revolution happened, and then that the Civil War came after that, right? And so in terms of geography, I wanted my kids to know what countries in what continent, but it wasn't important to me that they describe every single country that was their neighbor. And I remember that's all I told her, right? And so she was so offended, and she kept testing me and telling me how much I had hurt her and stuff, and I was like, okay, give me an example. Give me an example of any time that you feel that cite what have I said, what have I told you, what have I done that would lead you to believe that I think I'm superior to you, like you say, that you think I am, or I think that, or just cite an example. And she couldn't find a thing, and I had been nothing but respectful to her. And I admire her because she was younger, right? And she came from a really poor upbringing, and she was doing really well by her family. And I was very appreciative of that, and I never intentionally, I don't think I ever said anything that could hurt her, right? And so, but she would see no reason, and then she said, and you have hurt me, and I will never forget what you have done to me. And then she quit responding to my texts. And so I was I didn't know what hit me, right? And so I was like, well, okay. So 6 months later, I'm working on my computer, and I see a text message comes in, and it's her again. And she's telling me, I was hoping you could give me another chance. I wanted to apologize for the things I said to you. That was really unfair, because you were always really nice to me. And I was wondering if we could just become friends again, start hanging out again. And I replied, hey, thank you for contacting me, and I accept your apology. But I want you to know that you also hurt my feelings with the things you said. I don't know how you had said I hurt your feelings, but the way the things you said to me, they were very hurtful to me. And the thing that was most hurtful to me at the time was that she ghosted me. That I would have appreciated if at any point she felt like I did something that was hurtful to her, if she had brought it to me immediately, but she let it go for weeks and weeks. And she only told me something after I asked her, right? So I communicated that with her. And then I was expecting we would continue communicating, maybe get together for tea. And then she replies this really, really angry message. And she tells me, everything I said that you had done to me is true. And I will never forget the way that you are making me feel right now, or the way that you made me feel then. And I was like, again, like, what's going on here? And so then what came to me was, so first of all, why did she say she wanted to apologize and then have that reaction? And so then what came to me is what she had told me, that she expected she wouldn't like me because I was a doctor's wife. That she expected that I would be snobbish because I was married to a doctor. And that she had this preconception that all women married to doctors were bad people. And so I thought about that, and then what hit me is that this wasn't about me. This wasn't about how she saw me. I understood that her preconceptions about who she expected me to be were so huge that no amount of evidence of being kind to her, nice to her, respecting her, showing her love, appreciation, and just supporting her in every way, none of that could change the preconception she has. She was just expecting to be treated in a particular way. But more than her image of me, the thing that was important, that is important from this story and that connects to Feng Shui, is that her self-image was tainted. She believed that she was a kind of person that would not be respected by a person who maybe had a little bit more money or a person who had a little bit more education than her. It was all in her. It was her self-image, and she was going through life looking for people where she could project her insecurities on, right? And so everybody does this, the self-image this woman had, this self-image. That's something that everybody does to some degree or another, right? We all have this self-image, and it has to do with the way you were brought up, and many times it has to do with the labels that people put on you, the things they said about you, and that made an impact on you. There's maybe some things they said were good and some things they said were bad, but they labeled you, and you started creating a self-image, right? So you grow up, and then you finally have your home, where either you're renting an apartment, or you own a house, or you live in a condo, and you get your own place, right? And the choices that you make in decorating your place, those choices, they are going to reflect that self-image that you have. And then the things that people have told you your life about you that are constricting you, then they're on your walls, then they're on your furniture, they're on your art, and all these things are speaking to you. In Feng Shui, we say all things are talking to you. Make sure they have nice things to say. And so you do that, right? And then it becomes a self-realized prophecy, because for most people, these things are kind of like blind spots. And so you have certain ideas about yourself. Then you go decorate your home to reinforce those ideas about yourself. And then you go through life wondering, why is this always happening to me? Why are things not improving? Why can't I find a good job? Why don't I make more money? Why can't I have a good relationship? Why do I argue so much with people, right? And the beauty of Feng Shui is that by making small changes in your home, you can change the message that the home is giving you. And so when you control the language of the home, and the language of the home is mainly done through the photos that you put on your walls, the mirrors, and the art. And that is step 6 in the 9 steps to Feng Shui system, is controlling symbols or the language of the home, making sure that your home is telling you the stories that you need to hear, right? And so that is the beauty of Feng Shui, is that you are able to do that on the space, on the outer space, to create healing from the outside in. And that's the reason I wanted to share with you this story, right? In part because it made such a big impact on me, that it was just so shocking. It was so shocking that this was years ago when my kids were little, and I'm thinking about it, right? And so one other thing that I wanted to share with you was about, I drew a blank. So you have these preconceptions about yourself, right? But also the people you live with, once that you get married and once you have kids, they also have preconceptions about themselves, right? And you're all making choices in your home, and sometimes those choices, they're going to clash. And then come the arguments. And then comes the lack of harmony, right? And so Feng Shui is the tool that can help you make the right choices in your home, so that you hear the right stories, so that you don't go through life with wrong notions about yourself, so that you don't project your own circumstances, your own pain onto other people. Like, I understand this gal, she had a hard upbringing, and she was struggling, right? But I also had a very hard upbringing. And having a hard upbringing is not an excuse to not treat others kindly. It's not an excuse to not live well. You have two chances at family: the family where you grew up and the family that you create. And part of this system of the family that you create is the home that you take care of, the choices that you make in your home. And so I want to invite you to share with me if you ever had a similar story where a person reach conclusions about you that were really based on their self-image, that no matter what you did, they were going to see you in a certain way. I would love to hear those stories, because I think that sharing stories helps us understand life, it helps us understand each other, and help us feel connected to each other. So I'll see you next Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, and I hope we can chat more. I can share with you more interesting stories that connect to Feng Shui and help you understand Feng Shui, and especially that help you take action on Feng Shui. See you next time.